Hello my preschool friends and welcome to our story time video. And today's story is Growing Trees, written by Judith Bauer, Stamper, and illustrated by Wesley Lowe. Throughout the book, I'm going to be asking questions, so follow along and listen as I read the story. Growing Trees, written by Judith Bauer, Stamper, and illustrated by Wesley Lowe. This is a picture of my tree and me. We've been growing up together for a whole year. It all began last summer. I went to visit a national forest with my mom and dad. A forest is a great place to learn about trees. There are trees as far as the eye can see. We took a hike with a forester, an expert on taking care of trees in the wild. The forester showed us small, young trees and big, old trees that were like towering giants. Have you ever seen these small little trees? Those are called saplings. Then the forester explained the life cycle of a tree. It all starts out with a seed. In the spring, the warm sun makes the seed germinate or begin to grow. The seed sprouts a small root that grows into the ground. The roots absorb the water and minerals from the soil. So here's the roots coming from the seed, and then it begins to grow a stem. Next, a small stem pushes up from the ground and grows two tiny seed leaves. The leaves use sunlight to give the tree energy to grow. A new growth, called a shoot, appears at the tip of the stem. Larger leaves grow from the shoot. The seedling is on its way to becoming a tree. Which part of this do you think is the shoot? Yeah, this little part coming out, growing new leaves, is called the shoot. And where's the stem again? That's right, it's the stick part of the tree coming out of the ground. The young tree keeps growing if it gets enough water and sunlight to survive. In its next year of life, the tree grows buds that may turn into leaves. Soon, the tree has branches, a woody trunk, bark, and lots of leaves. Each year, the tree goes taller and taller, and its trunk gets wider and wider. A forester can tell how old a tree is by counting its rings. A tree trunk has one ring for each year it has been alive. This tree is more than 100 years old. A forester can also find out how old a living tree is by using a tree borer, a tool that takes out a small part of the tree without hurting it. Have you ever counted the rings of a tree before? How old is the oldest tree that you've counted the rings for? Wow, that's pretty old. After a trip to the forest, I wanted to grow a tree of my own. Dad took me to a nursery where you can buy flowers, shrubs, and trees. A nursery has trees that you can grow big enough to transplant or plant into a new place. The nursery worker showed me trees that have flowers in the spring and fruit in the summer. We looked at trees with soft leaves and trees with pine needles too. I chose a maple tree. My tree was already more than 4 feet high, just a little taller than me. The nursery worker helped us choose a shovel to plant the tree. She recommended organic fertilizer to feed the tree as it grew. Then she went over the instructions on how to plant my tree. Have you guys ever been to a nursery before? Oh, they're pretty fun. I love buying plants and planting them in the springtime. I picked out a place in our backyard where the tree would have lots of sunlight and lots of room to grow. Then Dad and I dug a hole with a shovel. The hole was as deep as the tree's root ball and about 3 times as wide. Do you know what a tree's root ball looks like? Oh wow, they're pretty cool. They're big and round and have all the roots of the tree. We carefully lowered the tree into the hole. We loosened the burlap bag around the roots. Next, we filled in soil around the tree. I added organic fertilizer to the soil and sprinkled mulch on top. Then I gave my tree a nice big drink of water. Trees need water too. Dad asked an arborist to check the other trees in our yard. An arborist is like a doctor for trees. She pruned the branches of our big trees with pruning shears. She checked all the trees for signs of disease. She also listened for bugs by using a stethoscope. She looked like a doctor. One of our oldest trees had been damaged in a storm. The arborist used a handsaw and a chainsaw to cut off 2 broken limbs. So doctors use stethoscopes, and so do arborists. What do they use the stethoscopes for, the doctor? Yeah, to listen to your heart. What does an arborist use these stethoscopes for? That's right, to look for bugs in the tree, making sure it's all healthy. I asked the arborist to check on my tree. She said it was doing just fine. She added a stake to help it grow straight. When the weather turned cold, my tree's green leaves turned bright red. Then they twirled down to the ground. The next spring, my tree grew buds that turned into leaves. Over the summer, it grew branches with more leaves. Its trunk grew thicker. This is a close-up of red maple branch with buds in the spring. Do you see it? Have you ever seen a tree that has those little buds on it? That's really cool. This is a leaf from my maple tree. It has 3 lobes that have saw-toothed edges. So the lobes are the part that the leaf comes out. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. The bark is dark gray and rough with rough little edges. All summer, I watered my tree and checked it for insects. It just kept on growing. The arborist said that my tree could grow 60 feet high. That's taller than my house. Look at my tree now. It's much taller than I am. If I take good care of it, it will be around for a long, long time. A tree is a great friend to grow up with. And then these are types of trees that you could plant. So there's an oak tree, a palm tree, a pine tree, a weeping willow, a Japanese maple, and a sweet cherry tree. Which one would you choose to plant? That is a great choice. I always wanted to have a weeping willow in my yard because I think they're so cool the way that they droop down like that. All right, and that is the end of our story, my friends. Thank you so much for listening to our story, Growing Trees, written by Judith Bauer Stamper and illustrated by Wesley Lowe. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Do you want to plant a tree now? Trees are great things to plant. Just make sure that you have a lot of room for them to grow because they might grow pretty tall. All right, my friends, thank you so much, and I will see you in our next video. Bye for now.